This week, Tom Brady, well, he was quoted as saying that he wanted to play until he was 45 years old. Today on CBS This Morning, his wife Gisele Bundchen was asked about just that possibility by Charlie Rose, maybe even his retirement. She said this.
As a wife, I'm a little bit, it's, as you know, it's not the most let's say, an aggressive sport, right? Football, he had a concussion last year. I mean, he has concussions pretty much. I mean, we don't talk about it, but he does have concussions. And I don't really think it's a healthy thing for your body to go through through that kind of aggression, all the time. And that could not be healthy for you, right? And I'm planning on having him be healthy and do a lot of fun things when we're 100, I hope.
Has Tom Brady ever had concussions as far as the official NFL injury report is concerned? The answer? No. He's been on the injury report 150 times in his career, but never because of a head injury or concussion. Brady appeared on the injury report 4 times towards the end of last season with knee and thigh injuries. He's been an Iron Man in his career, missed 1 season, and also those 4 games last year because of suspension, so 19 total games with the torn ACL and the suspension last season, but never because of a head injury. Well, with more, why not go to Patriots headquarters and why not talk to one of the best in the business? Our Patriot reporter is Mike Reese. Mike, obviously you have had your thumb on the pulse of what is going on in that organization for many years now, but this is a different kind of story. What's the reaction as best as you can tell?
Well, Bob, the team has not had any official statement on this, and I'm not anticipating anything from the team today. Go back 18 years of Bill Belichick as the head coach, and one of the things he says on a regular basis is that nothing is more important to the team than the health of its players. Specific to concussions, in this case, obviously, there's multiple layers. We know all about the independent doctors and that situation on obvious hits on the field, how they have the ability to bring a player off the field to evaluate them. But we also know that concussions are tricky and that there are situations in practice or other times where it's not as obvious. And there's sort of a situation where a player might have to go to the team and say, look, I'm feeling symptoms here. And then there's a process and a protocol to be followed when that takes place. So from a big picture perspective here, it's possible a lot of teams have players that had concussions that aren't reported. Whether that's the case specific here with Tom Brady is not known, but those are some of the dynamics in play here in this situation with Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Well, obviously the Patriots are an organization that we know likes to keep things as close to the vest as possible. Having said that, though, do you think that this will be something that will fester or maybe become a bit of a mushroom cloud if they don't come out with some type of a statement? Because as we understand so far today, it's just been no comment.
I certainly don't in this situation because I know that the background between the player, Tom Brady, and the organization, right up to ownership with Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and the head coach, Bill Belichick, Bob, always pretty much on the same page with this stuff. And to be honest, if you look at it from the team perspective, I mean, they're not going to come out and sort of dispute the player because it's possible Tom Brady did have a concussion and it's possible he just didn't say anything about it. So there's a lot of different layers to this, a lot of dynamics, and until we have more information on the background to this situation, it's sort of dangerous to engage in speculation as to where it might go with the team and Brady.
Very well put, Mike Reese. We appreciate the time. Thanks very much. Now we bring the insiders in. Your thoughts? He's right. There are a lot of different layers to this. Which one do you think you attack first?
He's right in so many important ways. And the key thing to understand is that when something like this comes up, in the manner in which it did, it is important to be responsible in the way we discuss it. We don't know whether Tom Brady had concussion symptoms and didn't report them to the team. We don't know whether he reported them to the team and the team didn't handle it right. Those are all just basically wild accusations at this point that have no business in this discussion. Here's what we know about this morning. We had a concerned wife say publicly that she believes her husband has had concussions. Now, whether that means, everybody has concussion. The point is, this is a guy that comes home from work, it does a violent job, comes home from work, and maybe probably doesn't always feel his best. And that's the kind of thing that concerns a person's family members. And I think when we look at the concussion issue in general, in the NFL and in sports in general, there's still so much we don't know. We know more than we did, worlds more than we did 5-10 years ago. But the entire protocol, all the procedures that are used to treat this and to handle this are still evolving. The discussion around it is constantly evolving and should. But sometimes we forget this one element of it. These guys bring this game home with them, and it concerns their family members. And I think when we hear a concerned family member say something like this, that underlines how important it is to continue to have nuanced, serious discussions about this issue.
Yeah, I think Gisele represents a lot of family members that surround players that have to deal with this concern, which is legitimate, particularly when you're considering the long-term effects and what your livelihood is going to be with that family member beyond the scope of football. So she's right to project that type of concern. I was talking to a PR official in the AFC just about their practices when you're going through a head injury or something of the sort. And what they told me is that when a player is evaluated for a head injury or concussion, the team actually doesn't have to say that that's the case, but most of the teams practice transparency in terms of telling you the player has left the field to be evaluated for a head injury. What this PR official said to me is that it's their understanding that it's only until you're diagnosed for a concussion that it actually has to be said. The other thing that they said is that if you're actually taken out during the game and it's for an injury, then you have to appear on the practice report for that said injury. But the other thing that they clarified real quick is that if you're evaluated for a head injury but it's ruled out and that occurs before the Wednesday practice, then it's their understanding that in that case that it doesn't. So what this all illuminates is that there are a number of scenarios, and that's why we don't know. And I think the best thing, as Dan was saying and as Mike Reese alluded to, is to get more clarity from Tom Brady, which is, I think, why the team is good not to really comment until you have the full scope of everything.
So this is on Brady, you think, to try and provide more clarity himself before the team then? Because it
may be, but it depends on what the facts of the case are.
Right.
Certainly, if Tom Brady is coming home and dealing with symptoms that he fears are concussion related and he's not reporting them, then it may well be on him to discuss that more openly with his team, with his doctors, in public. But again, we're dealing in hypotheticals. We don't know. We're just imagining, based on what she said, what might be going on. So at this point, I don't blame the team for not releasing anything. At this point, what are you going to say that isn't just going to make her look foolish? And you don't want her to look foolish because obviously what she's dealing with is a serious concern of hers and a serious concern writ large as well. So,
and the primary source is Tom Brady. He's the person that best knows what he was feeling, what he was not feeling. And don't forget that these players do the baseline, testing before to even establish if they're going above and beyond what would meet the criteria for that, or at least to help the independent neurologist to assess that. But the reality, too, is there are a lot of players who feel those symptoms and also do not report for whatever reason they feel is best for the longevity of their career.
You probably have a lot of people to talk to as well if you're the Patriots, because you could potentially be throwing your own medical staff under the bus, the independent spotters, the independent neurologist, all the people that are supposed to pick up on these signs if at some point a player has a concussion, and he's the face of the league.
We need more information.
Yeah,
you have to get more information.
You're going down roads that we really shouldn't be going down until we have more information.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, if there's and Bill Polian mentioned this earlier on the air on SportsCenter, if there's an issue where there's unreported concussion symptoms and it should have been on the injury report and isn't, then that'll be adjudicated if that's the case. But we don't know that that's the case. And honestly, I'm uncomfortable even speculating like that and saying it hypothetically. So here, I think at this point, we should get some more clarity from Tom Brady the next time he speaks publicly. Undoubtedly, he'll be asked about this. He'll probably make some offhand joke and then get into an explanation. That seems to be his style. And then we'll have a little better idea what we're dealing with. But yeah, look, if you're the NFLPA, if you're the NFL, you see this on CBS this morning, you probably make a call and say, hey, well, what's going on here? Is there something we need to be? But that's standard operating procedure in any case like this where this would come up in any form.
Yeah, and a point you both made off the air, which I think is very, very pertinent as well to this discussion and why we should take as much information in as we can. There is no player in the league that is going to be paid more attention to by their team than the Patriots are going to pay attention to Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
So you're right. I mean, they probably have to do some information gathering on their own.
And that's the distinction we made in the meeting when it comes to treating a player, which you would have to assume, obviously, if this were the case, that the Patriots are going to, want to take care of their quarterback. But then this also becomes a discussion of